Hello, hello. Hi. Hands of Anna Walker here. Yep, it's me, I promise. Cross my fingers, promise. Hi, welcome to the studio of Stab Things into Existence. I'm Anna Walker, your host for the evening and the curator of curious things all about felt and felting. Now, if you were with us last week, or if you watched last week's live a little bit later when it wasn't live, and by the way, those live on my YouTube channel. You can check that out on my Facebook page, on my website, stabthingsintoexistence.com. But we started this felt painting that's from a kit by the incomparable Moy MacKay. And I had the great privilege of taking a class in a 2-day workshop in her home studio in Truckweer, Scotland, which is just down the road from Peebles, where I happened to stay while I was there. And this is one of the kits that I bought, one of the souvenirs that I bought for myself. And that kit sat, and it sat, and it sat some more. And I unearthed it when I was moving here to the new Iowa studio here with Mom. So when you post that, hey, look what I found, and you tag Moy MacKay, she tells you to get at it. So I got at it. And this is the result after wet felting this particular painting. Now, I did not follow exactly what she had in her kit, but you know what? Like anything else, it's inspiration. It's giving you some ideas for starting out. So when I'm doing a felt painting, I start out doing the layout and then doing the wet felting. I let it dry, and when it's done, I take a good look at it and figure out, okay, I need to do a little extra attention to bring certain things out from the background. And those certain things are the cherries and making them more rounded instead of this weird egg shape here, bringing out the edges of the vase so that it lifts up, and the edges of the bowl here, adjusting the tulips just a little bit, making those lift up from the background. And I do that with needle felting, and I'm going to be using some needle tools. This is a single needle tool, and frankly, it's the only one that I really love and use frequently. I'm pretty sure it's a clover tool, but I could be wrong. But I love that I've got something to hold in my hand that feels like a pen instead of pinching an individual needle. I'm going to pull out an individual needle and show you. See, if you're just pinching with an individual needle, you've got to get your fingers in really, really tight there to have control over that needle. When I have the pen tool, I can hold it just like I hold a pen, and it's a lot more relaxed for my hand. Now, this is the single needle tool. I also have a multiple needle tool. This one happens to have 2 size 42 needles in it. It can have as many as 3 needles in it, but again, it's designed to feel in your hand like a pen, so it's a whole lot easier to have control over. Now, if you're laying down the background and I want the wall to look like it's further away than the tabletop here, then I can use my handy dandy Clover 5 needle tool, and it's got 5 needles in it. Or I want the big guns, I can get this sort of heritage version of a multiple needle tool, and I can put, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can put 12 needles in this, and that can make fast work of a background. But I don't use this very often because I don't like holding it in my hand like this. But I do use it occasionally. So, what are we going to do first? Well, the first thing we're going to do is get a cushion. Now, this happens to be one of the cushions that Bed Bath & Beyond used to fake you out. They would have a single towel on a stack of 5 of these to make it look like there were 5 towels in the overstuck area. When they closed in Topeka, my son, who was working for them at the time, grabbed me all of them. So I'm not going to run out of cushions anytime soon. Now I am going to take my single needle tool here. Here's the thing, you can stab straight up and down around something, but I want to be able to texturize an area and lift an area up. And the way I do that is using my needle at a 45-degree angle. Now, Anna, what is this 45-degree angle? Is it really important? Well, no, you could do less than 45 degrees, and that would probably help you out a bit more. But 45 degrees is about like this. And when I come in around the cherries here at this 45-degree angle, do you see how the red of the cherries is moving toward the rest of our cherry body here? It's amazing. It's also lifting up. So you're going to see me turning the painting around to different sides. Remember, one of the rules of needle felting is you can change direction, but don't change direction when you have the needle inside the fiber, because that is not going to go well for you and your needle. Now this is supposed to be the highlight for this particular cherry, and it's kind of gotten off onto the side a little bit. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to see if I can just lift it off a bit. Yes, excellent. So I lifted it off a bit, and now I'm going to bring that highlight right here at the edge of my cherry. And now my cherry looks a whole lot more rounded. That highlight is more where it's supposed to be. And again, I'm changing directions pretty frequently here. But you can see that I'm just stabbing right around the baseline of my cherry here. Now I can come in from the top if I want to flatten that out, but I want to see the texture and the shape of the cherries. Now believe it or not, right in here there is a stem, and I want to make sure that that stem can get a little bit more prominent here. I'm going to go along both sides of the stem, and again I'm just doing that 45-degree angle right along the edge of the stem, and it lifts it up beautifully. Can you see how we've got a little bit of height to our cherry? And if you're running your hands across, you can feel the stem there. So since this cherry is right on top of my vase here, I'm going to do the same thing here and get my vase delineated a little bit more. Now I'm using the single needle tool here, but I may flip and use the needle tool that has two needles in it. And the reason is, one needle works great, two needles work faster. So I'm just coming in that same 45-degree angle, and I'm coming right along the edge of my base here. And I have two needles in here so that I can have an area that's just going to give me a lot of action right along a line. And that has lifted up the base just a little. I want to see if you can tell we've got a little bit of definition here, and this just goes flat over. So let's work the other side. And again, for me, it is all about this 45-degree angle, because what it does is it goes into the fibers underneath the design that you're wanting to lift up, and it pulls the fibers from next to what you're wanting to lift up underneath and gives it a little bit of texture, a little bit of shape, brings it away from the background. But this is an excellent way to bring some additional texture to your felt painting. And you see I'm just pouncing my needle right along the edge of our vase here. I may further delineate my base when I do the stitching. That'll be the final part of working on a felt painting. At least that's my practice. I wet felt in the first pass. I needle felt any textural items in the second pass. And the third pass is stitching. So we've got our vase coming out from the background. Can you tell the difference between the vase here and the bowl, which has no definition at all? We've got our cherry right here in the front that's fallen out of the bowl, and it's got a beautiful texture to it. So let's work on the bowl here. And if you look on the back, you can see those fibers that have been pushed through underneath the vase, outlining that vase, outlining the cherry, outlining the stem. So it's really cool the way just a few passes with a felting needle can bring you so much definition to something that might have gotten a little muddled when you were wet felting. Maybe you had colors of background that were similar to the colors of the items that you were trying to focus on. Like I've got here, I followed the colorway that Moy had, but I messed with things a little bit. So my colors of my vase and my bowl got really close to the color of this background, which means that I need to come in and bring in a little bit of dimension with needle felting. Now the needle felting is going to hold. This is going to keep everything exactly where we want it to be, and it's going to give us that definition that we're looking for. Now sometimes I will take and use a really, really coarse felting needle. I'm going to do that here in just a second. And sometimes that coarse felting needle, as opposed to this very fine set of felting needles, sometimes that coarse felting needle can bring that dimension in quite a bit faster. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm just going to grab one of my old felting needles. Yeah, this is a really coarse one. And I'm just going to bring it in here. I mean, you can even hear the difference between the fine needles going through the fibers and the coarse needles going through the fibers. But just look, see the difference between this side where I've just used the fine needles and this side where I've used the coarse needles. And pay no attention to the phone, it does that frequently today. So this coarse needle was exactly the right thing to do, just to bring that dimension into the bowl. And you can see that I kind of slide along the line that I'm trying to reinforce, whether it's with the felting needle individually or whether it's with the felting tool. But that helps me sort of follow a contour. I did it around our vase, and I may come back with the coarse needle here and use it on the vase. But now I want to work this front line of our bowl here. And I want to make sure that I keep it a little curved, because when you're looking at a bowl, and you know, it's going to give you that suggestion of the roundness of the bowl when you have that curve in there. And I'm just doing this with the coarse needle because the coarse needle is in my hand, B, the coarse needle is doing exactly what I want it to do to detail the line of this bowl. So now we have very good definition here for the bowl, and I can continue to work my individual needle or my double needle here, and I can reinforce that area and smooth things out a little bit. But that gave us a great amount of dimension here. And on the top edge, I am just going to go straight up and down to reinforce that curved line. Please forgive the boing boing. I just turned it off. Okay, so we have our bowl outlined beautifully. One of our cherries, we've got our base. Again, I'm probably going to go back with the coarse needle and reinforce the base. But I want to show you how I'm going to tackle the tulips here by using this yellow one here. You see this little bit of yellow here? It sort of bled out as it was wet felted. That happens when you're laying out a felt painting and you've got it set just right. Just the agitation of the rolling and the massaging and the flicking and all of that can cause the fibers to migrate slightly differently than what you wanted them to. That's okay. You need to remember that your fibers are your collaborators when you are working in fiber art. And so you need to give them room to express themselves as well. I'm going to grab this coarse needle again because the first thing I want to do is come along the side here and reinforce that edge and see if I can get that yellow back where it needs to be. The lovely thing about felting is if something is not exactly where you want it to be, the direction you stab with a felting needle is the direction the fibers are going to go. So you have a little bit of control to add some extra curve and swoop to things. You see how I gave this petal just a little bit of a swoop here? Let's reinforce that just a little bit and make that go in. I am a fan of tulips. They're my favorite flower. So when I saw this kit, it was kind of a no-brainer. But I love all the different tulips. I have several books on tulips, and I use them as inspiration. But you see, just that little bit of work and that yellow that was like right here, we just have a little tiny shadow of it. And that is all we need to do with that. So now I'm going to come in, I'm going to round out the base of this tulip. Again, I still have the coarse felting needle in my hand. That's what I'm using at the moment. Once I've got the base line set up, then I will come in with my fine felting needle and I will give it a little bit more activity and felting action with that fine needle. I want to felt the line here to follow the curve of this particular petal. So I'm just going to go in straight up and down, right along this line. Actually, let's come in like this and see if oh yeah, that works much better. We're just reinforcing the line of this particular petal to make it just pop away from the other petals that are here. This is the petal that's in the back part of the flower, but we've got this petal here. So I'm thinking that it might be a good idea to come in here and just give a little bit, not quite as much felting action there, but just to give it a little sense of the individual petals that make up this beautiful flower. All right, so I'm done with the coarse needle. I'm going to come in with the fine single needle, and I'm going to go all the way around. I'm coming in at that 45-degree angle again. I just want to reinforce that line that the coarse needle put together for us. Round off the base of the tulip so that it's not quite so angular. Make sure I'm coming around on this side so that all of that yellow that sort of migrated off goes right back into the petals that are right there. A little swoop here on this petal. Coming right along here. this side with this. Now what I want to do is come along this back petal and just lightly reinforce the edge of that petal and give it a little bit of a swoop. Come in along here. Can you see how it's giving a little bit extra dimension to the flower? I love it. And you can see on the back, we're definitely getting those fibers underneath there. I'm going to hold this up close so that you can see the difference between these two. The pink has not been done yet, but the yellow you can definitely see. Let's see if I can. There we go. How's that? Is that a little better? You see the dimension, the texture that we've been able to build up. It's just lovely what you can do with a tiny bit of action with a felting needle and a little bit of time and attention sort of outlining your items that you want to lift off of the back. But that is what you do for the second stage of a felt painting a la Anna Walker. So I met a business owner here in Marshalltown that has a wine bar, and I got to talk to her briefly earlier this week, and we are going to talk about doing some stab and stitch classes. But here's my question for you. If you were in the area, or if I was in your area teaching a needle felting class or a wet felting class, what do you want to learn how to make? I've got things in mind like coasters, ornaments, could be any number of things. I mean, seriously, you can make so much with felt. Could be mini felt paintings. But tell me down below what you would like to learn. I'd really like to know. I'm getting some data gathering here so that when I go and talk with the owner of Tannin in Marshalltown, that I will be able to give her some ideas of what some of my followers would be interested in making. So let me know if you would. As always, I will be here next Wednesday. Next week I'll be here at 6:30 instead of 7 because my monthly obligation at 7 is next week. So a little early next week, but again, you can always catch it either here on my Facebook page or you can check it out on my YouTube channel. And if you would check out some of the videos that I have over on the YouTube channel, I'd greatly appreciate it. I've got a little way to go before I reach 3,000 viewed hours, and I really want to get there as soon as I possibly can. So if you can watch some videos or have them on in the background while you're drinking your coffee in the morning, I would really appreciate it. All of those links are on my homepage at stabthingsintoexistence.com, and I look forward to bringing you the next stage of this painting next week on What to Felt Wednesday, WTF Wednesday, and I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining me. I'm off to eat some pizza. See you later. Bye-bye.